Hello, everyone. This is a very lovely crowd. Craig is back there managing sound, thankfully. If anybody's feeling a little congested back there, we actually have a speaker outside, and it is possible to hear what's going on from there if that's more comfortable for you. Hopefully, I'm seeing people listening outside. I guess it's working. So welcome, everybody. This is our first artist talk of this season. And we have two spectacular artists whose work is entirely in this building, as are they. And each one of them is going to talk. So one of my favorite parts about running this gallery is hanging shows, because it's kind of like doing a painting, and it's kind of like doing a puzzle. And it's always about, well, okay, how does this work relate to that work when I'm doing two people in a featured show? So what I thought about when I put these two particular artists together is that they both have a very keen sense of the fine points in an image. I mean, that is Curly is a botanical artist, and that is much of the focus of that art form. Heather just has a deep, abiding love for architectural nooks and crannies. And so they both have a real interest in structure. You know, architecture is structure, and the plant life that Curly chooses is also very much about the structure of the natural elements. So those were the things I was thinking about as I put this show together. And it was just a really satisfying show to hang. And this is the first time I've been working toward this, trying to make this building be the featured artist show. And I'm super excited to have you all here, and we'll have plenty of wine and food and stuff out here, so you can move back and forth between both buildings. There will be goodies in both places. Of course, the upper gallery has an ongoing rotation of our many other artists in the gallery, as well as, if you haven't been in touch with what we've been doing here this year, we have created an area in the front of the second half of the gallery for Alison Tebow and Windhorse Arts. She has her own independent gallery within a gallery here. And I'm a big believer in collaboration, so I'm pretty excited to keep moving forward with that. And with that, I'm going to introduce everybody. Both of our featured artists have small children in various places who are, some of them with babysitters. So we're going to introduce Heather Reeves Blake, who is the painter of oils on that side of the room. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. I'm here today because I decided to make a New Year's resolution about 8 years ago, and because of the Elaines in my life, but I'll get to that in a minute. Setting goals is unusual for me, but somehow that year I decided to make a crazy resolution to have a painting in this very gallery. As a career nurse, including a stint at the Island Medical Center in 1984, this was potentially an ambitious goal for me, because at that time I had not even taken any kind of art class, including in middle and high school, and had literally never picked up a paintbrush. As a step toward my goal, and having won a free Tufts University course that semester, I chose to take the only painting class available intermediate to advanced painting. During the first class, students were encouraged to go around the circle and share their recent painting accomplishments. As one achievement was more impressive than the next, they finally came to me. I looked up and said, I think I'm in the wrong class. The instructor, Elaine Spatz-Rabinowitz, graciously invited me to continue, and I've been studying with her ever since. She's exposed me to art history, painters whose work inspires mine, and she encourages me to look closely and to paint only what I love. On Vinyl Haven, finding what I love and what speaks to me feels relatively easy. My heart has been enjoying this landscape for over 50 years. The character of the town, the people, and the architecture all resonate with me. I paint using photography, assiduously cropping scenes until a composition pleases me. Architecture, angles, light and shadow all call to me. These elements draw me in. Seeing shapes, light and shadow in life, and finding in that a pronounced abstraction really excites me. As I am learning to see, I've been able to pay attention to nuances in a scene that were previously hidden to me. There is joy in this deeper seeing, a gift waiting to be received when I am fully engaged with the present. There is a mosaic of geometry that we who enjoy Vinyl Haven all share. It's our common language. To endeavor to capture the rhythm of this ever-changing landscape can provide a lifetime of interesting work. For me, a lofty goal is to portray in paint a fraction of the deep noticing that the poet Mary Oliver conveys in words. Her poetry elevates the mundane. My goal is to do the same by painting a scene in a way that causes the viewer to see the beauty available to each of us when we look closely. The painting journey feels like both a refuge and a freedom during this chapter of my life. I appreciate Elaine Crossman for the wonderful gallery and for helping me grow as an artist, Elaine Spatz-Rabinowitz for her sage instruction, and my family, many of whom are here. I hope you will all set goals no matter how random or out of character, and see what unexpected joy might be waiting for you.
The critical thing, of course, I forgot to talk about earlier is that both of these artists are second career artists, and that's an interesting phenomenon that I've come to really appreciate in the course of the last 24 years running a gallery, is that people have lives, their lives shape them in certain ways, they go follow a career path, and then at some point, the creativity that's been sitting right below the surface just emerges, and emerges with a kind of passion and intensity that's just phenomenal to watch. So kudos to both of you.
Goodness, I didn't know there was going to be a microphone. But first of all, thank you, Elaine, and thank you for what you've done for this community. The art world here is just such an exciting thing to be a part of, and I couldn't be more grateful to you. And so, I've always liked botanical art, and I'm lucky enough, because of my husband Sandy, to have a wonderful collection of botanicals. But I never really thought about actually painting them myself, because I'd never been an artist, I'd never painted, I'd never really done any drawing. And by the end of my career as a garden designer, I was kind of looking for something to fill my time. And I picked up a book somewhere, and I can't remember where, but it was by a botanical artist, and it was a workbook on graphite drawing. And I spent a summer in Vinyl Haven with it on my lap, drawing eggs and hollowing out cups and shading and trying to figure out how to draw. And I wasn't really getting too far, but I was having a great time. And I found out that the New York Botanical Garden had a wonderful program in botanical illustration. So I signed up for a drawing class, and I started commuting to New York and taking drawing lessons, thinking that I was really doing a great job and really progressing. And every time I got to class, they'd say, but it's so flat. And so it took a long time for me to get to a point where I really began to observe what I was trying to draw. And I think it was one of the most important lessons I learned at the New York Botanical Garden was really how to look at stuff. I also realized that I wasn't going to get anywhere with botanical art if I didn't know how to draw. So in my course there, I was watching some of the work that was being put out by contemporary botanical artists, and I was frankly blown away. I had no idea that watercolor could be so incredibly light and transparent and have depth and the kind of beauty that it really does, and that it can be so subtle and so precise. So I started taking painting courses, and that was fine, but it wasn't really going all that well, and I wasn't getting too far. I still needed to slow down. I still needed to take my time and observe what it was that I was trying to explain. And then all of a sudden I realized that I didn't like painting flowers at all. The idea of painting a rose or an orchid just really didn't appeal to me. So that was a bit of a dilemma. And I started to realize that it was about texture and form and shape and how the light kind of influenced the things that I really wanted to paint. And at the same time, I took a course painting on vellum, and it totally changed my life. I didn't know what vellum was. I thought it was a kind of paper. And in fact, there is a vellum paper, but this is calfskin vellum that I'm talking about. And it requires it's just a totally different way of painting. And it made a lot of sense to me because I was painting natural subjects and it's an organic substrate. So it seemed to make sense. Anyway, at the same time, the pandemic kind of hit, and believe it or not, it was a huge influence on my painting because suddenly I was able to Zoom with artists all over the world. And I took workshops with people in Tokyo, in Paris, in London, and they were all some of the best vellum painters, and there aren't a lot of people who paint on vellum. So it was extraordinary to be able to work with these people, and it was a whole new access for me, and it just changed everything. So vellum, calfskin vellum, is a byproduct of obviously a calf, but it always made me feel good to know that they weren't slaughtering calves for the use of the vellum. It's affected by temperature and humidity, and so on a day like today, you can see the wrinkles in the vellum. And tomorrow, if it dries out, they'll flatten out again. So it's very, it really reacts to the weather. And the early plant hunters who would go for 2 and 3 years on a boat used vellum because they could roll it up and store it, and it didn't disintegrate the way paper would because the humidity didn't affect it. It just seemed to me that the organic nature of it was really appropriate for my subject. So there are a lot of artists who paint on vellum who make paint charts, tediously mixing paints and different combinations, and they have pages and pages of paint charts. And I don't paint that way. I could never have the patience to do it. So what I do is, and I've learned this from other vellum painters, I take right out of the tube, I take my watercolors and put them on a palette, and then I kind of mix them all up. So I get an entire range of color, having chosen those particular colors depending on what my subject is. And then I let it dry, and then I use tiny, tiny little brushes and take tiny little bits of paint and take tiny little strokes and start putting it on the vellum. And I brought this. I don't think you can see it, but this is one of the brushes I use, and it's one of my favorite brushes. It's made out of cat whiskers, and it's made by monks in Korea out of bamboo and cat whiskers. And I tried to count the number of cat whiskers, and I couldn't. But I think there might be as many as 15. I don't know. Anyway, it's wonderful for detail. Anyway, so the whole notion of painting on vellum is that the paint is layered onto the vellum, and the vellum provides a translucency. So each layer can be a different color, and all the colors kind of come through one another. And there can be as many as 40 layers of paint before you get to a point where the painting starts to come together and pop. And believe me, I have drawers full of paintings that never got there. It takes a while. It takes a lot of patience. Let me see. Oh, another show and tell. There are 3 kinds of vellum, and in this show I've used 3 different kinds of vellum. One is classic vellum, this is probably the closest to classic vellum. It doesn't have a lot of veining in it. Another is Kelmscott vellum, which has a painted surface on it, and it's like painting on ivory. And it was actually developed because ivory was so expensive. Well, way back when, people used to paint on Kelmscott vellum because it was like painting on ivory, and that's what they wanted. And then the third is natural vellum, and that's the very veiny vellum that comes with Caskin. And I have some up here if you're interested. You can come and look when I finish. But here's a piece of the veiny vellum with nothing on it. And the reason I have it taped on here is because it has a mind of its own. And it comes rolled up. There are 2 places to get vellum. One is London and one is New York, and that's it. And so I get mine in London, and it comes in a roll, and I have to fight with it to get it to calm down. I can put it out on the table for a month to get it to flatten. Anyway, it can be a pain. What else? So I've decided really that the most exciting thing for me about all of this is the process. Finding a subject that I like to paint is one of the most difficult parts of it. Sometimes things just don't grab me. If any of you have any really cool stuff, I'd love to know. Let me know, because I'm always looking for a good subject. But it's the process. It's the slowing down and sitting down and having some good music playing and sitting at my desk in Vinyl Haven and looking out at the view. And it's a wonderful kind of experience. And Heather, I think like you, it's so spiritual, for me anyway. So one of the things that I have learned is that satisfaction is rare. And I actually am very happy with this show. I'm pleased with it. It doesn't always happen that way. And even though I'm pleased with it, I can look at every single one of these paintings and think there's something I want to change. So anyway, thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy looking at them. And if you have any questions,
So those were two really interesting talks, and I hope you all take advantage of the opportunity to speak with these artists who are here and to really look at their work. In both cases, there's much to be gained from really spending time in front of one of these works. So thanks all for being here. The wine and food and stuff will be coming out immediately, and enjoy yourselves. Thank you. Yeah, it's